as it pertains to the city of Los Alamitos. Los Alamitos Police Department currently has 4 homeless liaison officers. Our HLO program consists of trained officers to be the initial point of contact with homeless individuals as well as addressing community concerns involving homelessness. HLO training consists of 16 hours of post-certified HLO course, an advanced 40-hour HLO course. Officers are also undergoing 2 hours of strategic communication, 4-hour de-escalation awareness training, and 2-hour crisis intervention with mentally ill persons. These courses are all crucial training that help give our officers the tools they need when contacting homeless individuals. Our HLO philosophy in Los Alamitos includes a proactive outreach consisting of regular patrol checks in common areas affected by homelessness. For example, the flood control channel and off-path businesses. We also conduct proactive counseling, resource distribution, including information regarding shelters, provide bus passes, and our low or no tolerance for illicit activity. Our ideology consists of preservation of quality of life for our residents, dignity of the homeless person, their need for assistance, and deterrence of crime and criminal behavior. Currently, the city of Los Alamitos experiences a very low number of homeless residents for the County of Orange. Per the County of Orange's 2024 point-in-time count, Los Alamitos experienced 4 resident homeless persons, 3 sheltered and 1 unsheltered, a number that has gone down incrementally since 2019. There are currently no active homeless encampments in Los Alamitos, an encampment being a makeshift shelter consisting of a tent or a tarp. In September last year, there were a series of encampments along the Long Beach side of the flood control off Ball Road. After conferring with our sister agency, Long Beach Police Department, and their homeless liaison officer, Los Alamitos police officers conducted homeless outreach in the area aimed at identifying subjects involved in the encampment, educating those persons of the illegal nature of their encampment, providing those persons with resource options, and finally an ultimatum for discontinuing their illegal activity. 10 days later, Los Alamitos police officers returned, made an arrest for an outstanding warrant, and shortly thereafter, LA County Public Works cleared the area of the debris that they had left behind. Los Alamitos Police Department initiated this outreach because Long Beach Police Department did not have the resources available at the time. Furthermore, Los Alamitos Police Department felt it was prudent to be proactive for the community. Although this encampment was in LA County jurisdiction, its close proximity to Los Alamitos residents had directly impacted quality of life. This is one example of our approach to ensuring stability for our populace and that of persons in need of help. I have some statistics here taken directly from the California Post website, Peace Officer Standard Training. California has the largest homeless population in the nation of approximately 180,000 as of 2023. 46% of the homeless persons have a mental illness or substance abuse disorder. 1 out of 17 adults suffers from schizophrenia, bipolar disorder, or major depression. Our recommendation to the public is, if possible, do not interact with homeless persons as they may be suffering from mental illness or substance abuse. We encourage the public to contact the police who have the experience, resources, and training. If the issue is non-emergent, the Los Alamitos Police non-emergency line can be contacted. That number is 562-594-7232. Again, area code 562-594-7232. So as mentioned earlier, the city of Los Alamitos has a low population of homeless individuals, and we hope to continue that downward trend. Occasionally, it may be the case where a homeless individual is found wandering through the city, maybe just passing through, or maybe he or she was recently discharged from the local hospital and is in need of assistance to get back home. Either way, that is what we as HLO officers are here for. Do not hesitate to notify the police department of any homeless activity so we may provide help they need and provide better quality of life for the community. That's it. Any questions? Yes, ma'am.
You had just mentioned right towards the end, some people might be dropped off after something?
It happens on occasion where somebody from a different surrounding city may be taken to the local hospital, and when they get discharged, they'll end up not having a ride back, in need of resources to get back home, and that's what we're there for. We provide bus passes, direction back home, and any resources they need.
Do you coordinate with the hospital, or you see them, kind of wandering on the street
No, we
in
don't.
need of a service?
Yeah, no, we don't coordinate with the hospital. We just see them.
Find them and do that. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you for the presentation.
Appreciate it.
The number that you read off, is that direct for the HLO program, or is that a general?
Which number are we talking
The non-emergency number, will that go directly to one of y'all, or?
about? It'll go directly to our dispatcher's non-emergency line, so our dispatch will field those calls.
Okay, and then just so that, for all of those listening,
Yeah.
what would be, I need to call 911, and then what would be an example of, I should just call the non-emergency line?
That's pretty subjective. It depends on if you feel that, this is an emergent situation. I can't tell you how you feel, what may be an emergency or not. You can call 911. It never hurts to call 911. There's also, I've just provided the non-emergency line, unless you somehow think that this is not a pressing issue, and that you can call the non-emergency line.
And in those situations where you're not sure, that's what the police dispatchers are there for as well. When in doubt, if you're not sure and you'd call 911, they'll be able to assist you as well as far as routing the call, making it a 911 call, or downgrading it.
Okay, but it keeps its same place in queue?
Correct. It's going to have to go through them as well. Anytime anyone in the city sees somebody, there are other avenues to report it, such as the LOSAL app, but we always encourage everyone to call dispatch first. It is the most expeditious route to getting the call in the queue so that we can get an officer respond. It is the fastest way, by far.
What if I call you first?
That is not going to prevent somebody, whether it be myself, one of the captains, or the watch commander, having to call dispatch to still have that call created. So that would still be the fastest way, would be to go direct with dispatch.
Okay, thank you.
Especially if you're the person observing it, because they're going to ask you additional information about the person that you're calling about.
Any other questions? No? All right. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you for your time.
Okay, at this time, we have oral communications. Any individual in the audience may come forward to speak on any item within the subject matter jurisdiction of the City Council. Remarks are to be limited to not more than 5 minutes per speaker. And we ask that you just fill out a speaker card. Are there cards up there?
Sign-in sheet.
Okay, that's fine.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to read you a part of a news piece that was written by Dan Walters. He works for an organization called Cal Matters. He is one of the most decorated columnists in California history. He's covered politics since 1974. This article was written in 2020. It says, using public funds to pass ballot measures is also illegal at the local level. Government Code Section 54964 forthrightly declares an officer, employee, or consultant of a local agency may not expend or authorize expenditures of any of the funds of the local agency to support or oppose the approval or rejection of a ballot measure or the election or defeat of a candidate by the voters. Nevertheless, as California city, county, and special districts officials place measures on their local ballots, particularly bond measures and tax increases, they often spend countless millions of taxpayers' dollars on lavish information campaigns that don't even pretend to be neutral. They hire professional campaign management firms to conduct advanced polling, draft measures using positive terms, and then generate radio and television spots, mail appeals, and other forms of political propaganda to persuade voters to approve the measures. Went back and looked at the City of Los Alamitos 2020 agendas and actions, and the City of Los Alamitos likewise hired a PR firm to convince voters to tax themselves on sales in Los Alamitos in August of 2020. One of the members of the community provided me this little flyer that has been sent to all residents. It has a nice picture of Elvis, the dog, which is really cute. But it also talks about several other things that are not related, and one that deals with the Los Alamitos City Charter Amendment. The law says that only matters that can be published by the council have to be relevant facts, they have to be accurate, they have to be fair, and they have to be impartial. The mailer that was sent out is very vague. It uses terms like modernized public works, instead of saying that they're transferring non-bid contracts to the city manager under $125,000. It says clean up, legacy by districts. The term clean up naturally is vague and ambiguous. Establish campaign contribution restrictions. That, in fact, is not accurate based on reading on the measure on the ballot. The proposal actually overrides state campaign contributions in place of a local restriction. It says establish district-specific term limits. That also is not factually accurate. The language of the measure states that it is revoking an existing term limit of 12 years and enacting new term limits, which would allow existing council members to stay on longer than the citizens voted for originally. So I would request that in the future, when you choose to spend money, taxpayers' money on mailers, and you're dealing with political issues, that you review the text of the material more clearly to make sure you're not violating any laws.
Thank you. Do I have anybody else that would like to speak? Again, if you could just sign up.
You guys know who I am. Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
It's been a while since I've been here, but I wanted to stop by this time because of last month's city council meeting. And I listened to it yesterday, and I was a little I was really sort of bothered with some of the questioning that was brought up, with regards to Chet Simmons. So, I've just noticed, I've been coming to these meetings for a while, because I am a resident. And, since Tricia Murphy and Emily Hibbard joined the city council, there's just been nothing but division. And what I see from sitting here sometimes appears to be like harassment of our employees, okay? And in every meeting, there seems to be like a barrage of inferences about some sort of wrongdoing. And yet to this day, there is like no evidence, no one's going to jail. But, it just simply looks like just harassment of great people in this city, okay? So the last city council meeting was a bit shocking to me. And I thought it was offensive behavior towards a Los Alamitos employee, Chet Simmons, by a city council member. Emily Hibbard's questioning, I believe, was out of line and conducted at the wrong time. There was no evidence presented of wrongdoing. Instead, Hibbard insinuated, implied, or inferred wrongdoing. Hibbard had an opportunity to ask questions during a closed session, but instead chose a public setting to embarrass our city manager. And I think that sort of behavior is unproductive. Asking Mr. Simmons to close a business, and I say quote, I put business in quotations because based on the recording, he has done nothing with it and only created it. So asking him to close a business in exchange for approving his contract, I thought was an abusive use of power, especially since there was no evidence presented of wrongdoing. And I'm just going off of the recording, so I don't know what's happened, if anything's happened since. But, I want to thank you, Hasselbrink, Dobie, and Nafulda for stepping in and clarifying. Last month's inference, I think it's unfair and unjust because it could unjustly, negatively impact Mr. Simmons' professional reputation. And for what? Nothing. I would say it's a nothing burger without any evidence. And I just think it's unfair that we're doing that to our employees. Like I said, I've been coming to these meetings long before Murphy and Hibbard even arrived on city council. And what I witnessed before was more of a collaborative partnership among the residents and employees and city council. But now it's like every session, there's some sort of insinuation. And it's just awful, and especially against the employees. Because from my experience, these people are working really hard. So, and I don't really think that, Tricia Murphy and Emily Hibbard know what I'm talking about, because they weren't here before to see it. And so they didn't know until they, Hibbard didn't join city business until she lost her state assembly seat race. So get to the business of the city and us residents. Put aside your personal political aspirations and stop harassing our city employees. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else who wishes to speak?
I'm Maggie's husband. I just wanted to say is that I grew up in Long Beach, in that city over there. My father was the city engineer of Long Beach, and I spent my whole life in Long Beach. And that city over there has got a lot of problems. And this is a nice city because it's small. There's only 2 streets. Everybody knows everybody, the police chief, everybody here. We all know each other. It's a wonderful city. I wish you people would just work together and be happy with each other and make for the best of this city. Don't turn this into a city like the city over here I grew up in, where it's a mess. This is a wonderful city. I love this little city. Keep up the good work, you city council members that have done a great job, and all you people have done a great job. Continue, and God bless all you people. And quit fighting with each other or saying things about each other or doing things to each other that's not going to make this a better city. Just do what you need to do to make this a better city, whether it's fix the benches in the park, clean up the graffiti, like I clean up the graffiti in this town and the trash. I walk these streets every morning and I clean them. And I live in this city. I'm proud of this little city, and you guys need to be proud of it and work together to make it a great little city. It's a great city, and keep it that way. Thank you.
Thank you. Do you have any other members of the public who wish to speak? Okay, at this time, we have updates from the mayor. First thing I'm going to mention is the Senior Expo. The Memorial Care Elevate Encore Senior Expo is a free event and will be held on Wednesday, August 21st from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. at the American Legion Post 716. This is an informative event featuring resources and information to help you in your second act. Resources will be available on housing, transportation, caregiving, leisure services, volunteer opportunities, and more. The first 150 participants in attendance will receive a free tote bag, while all in attendance can be entered to win one of several opportunity drawings. A focus group will be held, and you have the opportunity to provide in-person input on our Senior Services Master Plan survey during the event. Don't forget to fill out the survey by August 31st. The Serve LoSal and Celebrate LoSal. Come join us on September 14th, 2024 to commemorate the Celebrate LoSal event. We are starting off the day at 8:30 a.m. with Serve LoSal, a citywide volunteer service event where you and your family can participate by supporting one of the many projects offered, such as serving local nonprofits, aiding senior residents in need, or helping beautify our parks. You can register for projects at www.servelosal.org. Following Serve LoSal, join our community at 4 p.m. for the Celebrate LoSal Street Fair on Pine Street. Here we are featuring the LoSal Carnival starting at 5 p.m., where the whole family can partake in carnival games and rides, all while enjoying Pine Street's Eats, which offers a variety of food tastings from Los Alamitos restaurants. Come and explore our public safety fair featuring Los Alamitos Police Department OCFA, CERT, and more. Grab a drink at the Beverage Garden benefiting the Los Alamitos Community Foundation and relax while listening to live music from 5 p.m. to 10 p.m. Help honor our local veterans at a special Veterans Recognition presentation at 5:30 p.m. at the stage. To complete the celebration, we are ending the night with our Los Alamitos Glow Run, where more than 1,500 participants will unite in the most eccentric neon outfits and experience the magic of glow tunnels. The first 1,000 kids to register for the race are free. Registration now at raceroster.com. And finally, we have the Community Center grand reopening and ribbon cutting. Save the date for Friday, October 4th, 2024, from 5:30 p.m. to 8 p.m. for our Community Center grand reopening and ribbon cutting ceremony. Beginning at 5:30 p.m., come dressed up in cocktail attire, tour our open house, and celebrate us. This event is free and includes appetizers, first come, first served, DJ and dancing. Additional parking will be available at the Oak Middle School parking lot. We proudly rededicate this facility as a testament to the collective efforts, vision, and generosity of this great community. May this community center continue to be a place to gather, learn, grow, and celebrate. This project was made possible through the dedicated work and financial support of State Senator Janet Nguyen. So we got a lot of cool events coming up. Hopefully everyone can attend. And right now we have the updates from city staff. City Manager Simmons, do you have anything to report?
Just one, sir. I'm going to pull item 11A from tonight's agenda. Simply, there's some additional pieces that I think would benefit the community by having them included, and so we'll bring this item back to you at a later date. And that is all.
Okay, hold on one second here.
I'm sorry, that's item 10A.
Okay. Okay, right now we have the warrants. Per the expedited warrants, each council member has had an opportunity to review the warrants, and questions are emailed to staff for answers. Any further questions can be handled by staff and reported on within the next week. So with that, we have the, let's see, if I can get a roll call vote for the warrants.
We can entertain a motion first.
I'll move it.
Second.
Okay. Roll call, Mayor Nafolda,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Hasselbrink,
Aye.
Councilmember Doby,
Yes.
Councilmember Hibbard,
Aye.
Councilmember Murphy.
Aye.
Okay. The warrants pass. Now we move on to the consent calendar. All consent calendar items may be acted upon by one motion unless a council member requests separate action on a specific item. Does anybody request an item to be pulled?
I'd like to pull G.
I'd like to pull C.
Anything else?
I'll move the balance.
Okay. Can I get, okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, I'm going to start with item C, City Council Handbook. If we can get a staff report, or do you need a staff report, or you just have questions?
No, I have a few questions. I understand that it says 9C. However, when you go to the page, it says 10C. When you go to page 52.
That's likely due from when the revised agenda came out. The numbers didn't auto-populate to updates. And, it is correctly listed on the agenda with all the correct information, so it is 9C.
Great. Thank you. Thank you, Wendy. I also noticed on page 54, it was left blank, and there are no further details regarding sections 13 through 16. Is that intentional?
So the staff report, the items that were called out were just ones of note that staff thought were particularly, should be called out. We did not summarize every single section of the handbook within the staff report.
Okay, so that page was meant to be left intentionally blank.
I'm not sure which page you're referring to as intentional.
Page 54.
Madam
Oh.
Clerk,
Yeah.
I may be able to, are you on?
Oh, well,
the
page
response now?
54 is blank. That's just formatting of our agenda management system.
Okay.
The attachments went too long.
Okay, all right, thank you for clarifying that. On page 77, is there a reason why 7.1 policy shares the same name as 7.3 policy?
No particular reason. We just didn't notice that. We can change either one of the names, or they both fall under 7, so.
Okay. So either one will be corrected to reflect a different name? Is that what it would be?
Yeah, we can change 7.3 title.
I would suggest actually just changing both to what it's talking about, like printer policy and sustainability policy or something like that, so both of them are clear.
Yeah, we can make those changes.
Okay.
To clarify the section it's speaking about.
Thank you again. I understand that there were surrounding cities that were used as a resource for this draft staff handbook. What were the surrounding cities that were used?
So the cities that we always pull from are Seal Beach, Cypress, Stanton, and Westminster, I believe. I do apologize, our management analyst is out sick today, and he's the one who pulled all the different cities. I know those 4 are always contacted cities. I'm not sure which other ones he reached out to.
And it doesn't reflect, how did the cities enforce the dress code?
I don't believe they were enforced. There was no specific section on enforcement for dress codes.
On page 85, 11.6, the agenda, is there anyone who reviews the final agenda or approves it before it's circulated or distributed?
It's a collective effort between me, the city manager, and the city attorney.
Can we have that referenced, for, if it's going to be for new council members who aren't aware of how the process is completed, to have that referenced on who does the final approval before it's circulated or distributed?
If that's the will of the council, we can add that to the policy.
We're looking at 11.6, just where it says the city clerk is responsible for preparing the agenda. Do you just want to add who else looks at it?
Yeah, that's it. Just so they're aware that, city clerk prepares it, but then there's other processes or, that's formalized after that.
Do we need a motion for that, or do you just need?
Just consensus.
Okay, I'm fine with that, yeah.
For 11.7, the minutes and record keeping, is it possible for a council member to include a verbatim transcript in the meeting minutes?
If the majority of council approves that, yes.
Okay, can that also be referenced, that would be an option that could be included?
No, I'm not okay with that. I can bring some color to it real quick. Back in March of 2019, the council specifically acted and did action minutes, which means the only thing that have to be recorded are action items and the votes on the action items. Anything verbatim or even public comment did not have to be. It was more just the action items, and that was approved unanimously in 2019.
Yeah, okay, thank you. Now, in regards to 11.86, are the certificates usually endorsed by majority vote of the city council?
Certificates, no. The city council agenda policy, which is separate from this, which was adopted by council, states that it has to have a direct correlation to the city, either by, they provide services to the city partners with them, and then that the majority of those are just approved per past practice.
Okay. And that's for 11 point, the certificate of appreciation and commendation?
Correct.
Okay, thank you. In regards to 11.11 on the dress code and professional standards, are sweatshirts with the city logo and brand acceptable to wear?
So it depends on the setting. Typically they are. I don't know if you would want to wear a sweatshirt to a council meeting. It would be up to the council.
And that's what this is in reference to, I'm assuming just the council meeting, or when we're out representing the city.
Correct, when you're representing the city. Mhm.
Okay.
So I'm sorry, so if you're representing the city and attending such as like an RMAC meeting, would you provide the opportunity to wear a sweatshirt because it says that it's inappropriate to wear a sweatshirt with a city logo?
So the inappropriate does have sweatshirts. If the council wants to add a caveat for city logos, sweatshirts are okay, then that's up to the council.
Okay.
Well, I think it wouldn't have to, I guess it depends on the event specific, right? I mean, I think we can all use our judgment to, if we're going to a formal dinner, I don't think we'd want to wear a sweatshirt, whether it had the city logo or not. But if you're going to, like I sit on the OC Sandboard and we take tours of places, and if it's cold outside, I think a city sweatshirt would be appropriate. So I think we can use our judgment with respect to the setting, what's appropriate and what's not.
Okay, because that's why it just seems like it's very ambiguous in the way that the verbiage is done. I mean, because one, who's going to enforce it if these are the number of inappropriate attire? I'm wearing a sheer shirt right now, but I don't believe it's inappropriate, but someone else may deem it's inappropriate because I have it under a vest. And it says no sheer shirts. So it just seems like a lot of this inappropriate attire that's referenced, it's very ambiguous, and it could be perceived by different council members or anyone else in their own perspective as wrong or correct following this list. Like a mini dress or mini skirt, what's the measurement or the length?
Were you going to say something?
I'm sorry. I was just going to say that ultimately the council is the enforcer of these policies. So if the council collectively decided that something was appropriate or inappropriate, that would be the way that it would be handled. But I will say, just because we have our own policy internally that controls what staff wears, I can't comment to the fact that it's incredibly difficult to list out every single scenario that potentially might come up. And we do request, much like the mayor said, for our employees to use their best judgment. And then in the event that something looks or appears that it does not fall in line with policy, that a conversation happens between the manager and that employee at that time. But I think it'd be hard to list out every potential infraction. I would look at these as more of a general guideline as to how exactly, if the council chooses to adopt this, how exactly the body would present themselves in public.
Okay, because there's no reference to like a reasonable adjustment for employees with like disabilities. What if they're wearing a different type of head attire, such as a turban, because it's their religious belief? There's no reference to that either. It's not being exclusive to if someone's pregnant and they need to wear flip-flops because they're having water retention. There's not a reference to anything that has to do with these protected groups that could cause some type of harassment.
I'm saying again that obviously I would think that whoever the controlling party or board is would need to use their best judgment as to obviously not to discriminate and to allow for those things, which is why those things are not listed within here. And again, to take into account just, any kind of, I'll call it accommodation that needs to be made. I'll say just from the employee standpoint, we definitely take that into account whenever we're making those decisions.
So these aren't really enforceable, basically, because if we attend different events, how is anybody going to be aware of what someone else is wearing? So it's just basically each council member's decision based what they believe is appropriate clothing per this guideline.
I think what it boils down to is if the council as a body decides that something is or is not appropriate, that they can take whatever action they deem necessary at that time.
I have no further questions.
Anybody else?
I have a couple questions. She touched on the enforceability. Maybe Michael, you can help me out with this. To what degree are these enforceable? And if I show up with, what we deem as incorrect footwear to something, I think it's okay, but the majority of council thinks it's not okay. Can that prohibit a council member from voting?
Prohibit them from what, I'm sorry?
From voting.
No, I think the way this would play out is if there were any violation of one of the stated policies, it would have to come back to the council as a whole to have a discussion and potentially some sort of motion or censure item directed at an individual who they felt had violated the policies.
Okay. Thank you for that. I have a question on the out-of-town notification, specifically regarding the enforceability. It's on page 90 of the staff report, and I'll read a portion of it. This stood out to me. It says, should a council member intend to be out of town overnight, the council member will notify the city manager 72 hours or more before departure. The dates and location should be provided. For the intent of this provision, out of town includes anywhere outside of the county of Orange, California, or the county of Los Angeles, California. Theoretical. Myself or one of my colleagues has dinner with some friends in Corona and decides to stay the night. To what degree, and the city manager is not notified, to what degree is that enforceable? I feel like I understand the concept of this. We want to make sure we have a quorum in case there's an emergency meeting, but to what degree is that enforceable?
It's really the same response, that if there's any violation of a policy under these guidelines, any sort of reprimand or pushback on that violation would require the council to come together, have that as a discussion item at the meeting, and then take whatever action they felt was appropriate.
Okay, but it can't prohibit a council member from voting.
Correct.
I think this handbook's going to lead to a lot of issues. That's why I'm asking these issues. I think we're going to get into some tit for tat, like the public comment mentioned today. We're working on settling some feathers, on this council, and I think things like this could be misconstrued and taken to the fullest extent, whatever that might mean. But if a censure is the worst that it could be, or if a council member can still vote, that's what I want to make sure, that regardless of clothing or footwear or these suggestions, that I understand the nature of this. I understand where they're going with this. I think it's good. But in case there's some nitpick, I just want to be very clear that can't prohibit a council member from casting a vote.
Yeah, I don't, nowhere in this policy does it suggest that you could be prohibited from casting a vote, correct? I don't think that was the intent, but I would say that should not be the result.
Should not or cannot?
Well, I don't think it is based on how it's drafted and what the enforcement provisions say. But yeah, it should not preclude a council member who's elected from voting on an item before the council.
And legally, this out-of-town policy, this is a bit creepy to me. This is out of town for one night, out of LA or Orange County, so it's a bit too creepy for my vote, especially with the date and location provided. I find that very odd. The charter does mention, it says in the next paragraph, if a council member is going to be gone for 60 days, I understand that. You know, we have to get business done, but overnight, that, I'm certainly not comfortable with that, but I wanted to make sure that there's no enforceability besides this comes back to council, so-and-so didn't report in, and this does not prohibit it from voting. I just want to make that sure. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, I would certainly think these are guidelines, just more of a courtesy, you know? How would we ever know if anybody, you know, I mean, how do you guys know if I'm out of town or not? I think it's just a courtesy. If you're not gonna be available, just let them know. That's the way I read this. Or if I'm not gonna be able to, if I go camping, you can't get a hold of me. You know, I usually just give Chet a call or something like that.
Yeah.
So I don't, when I read this, I don't see it as punitive. If you're gone for a night, we're gonna restrict your, or anybody would wanna restrict your voting rights. I think it's just more of a matter of courtesy, because it does say intend to, so to me, that's, like, if you're planning on being out of town, the example that you gave, you know, there are certain times you go out, and maybe you don't want to drive back, you stay there. I mean, who's going to ever know? I mean, realistically, right?
Yeah, thanks for sharing that. I
yeah.
appreciate that.
Okay. Anything else? Any other questions?
No, I just had a couple comments regarding the dress code. It's basically, you know, use your own discretion. We're professional people here. We're here to represent the city of Los Alamitos, and I don't see under any circumstance where a mini dress would be the best representation of our city. Obviously, the sweatshirt, depending on what you're doing. You know, I was at the park concerts. I wore Los Al gear. I was in tennis shoes, but that was appropriate. So I think it's, you know, we're all, you know, adult professionals here, and we know how to dress appropriately, and we are representing our city. But you're also representing yourself, so if you show up to an event and it's inappropriate, you're probably going to get more of a judgment than the city saying, how could they let their council members go out and do that? So it's like with anything, you know how to dress for the appropriate occasion. And then on the out-of-town thing, it always used to be where we would send Wendy just a note saying, hey, I'm going to be out of town. These are the dates, here's where I'm going to be. And she would publish out of county, out of state, and out of country notices. And once again, it was just so if we needed something, we knew who was going to be in town and who wasn't going to be in town. It wasn't a tracking device. We didn't know, our colleagues, we didn't know where they were going to be. It was just the dates that they were going to be unavailable. And that was simply it. Once again, it's just professional courtesy. We work together as a body, and so it's always nice, especially for staff, to know when certain people are going to be out of town. That's it.
I do have a comment. Can this provision also be made for like senior directors of staff so that council is aware, like if Wendy is out of town or Mr. Kohler is out of town, Mr. Noda is out of town, just so that we're all made aware since, you know.
Well, I'll say it this way, your direct communication with staff is supposed to flow through me, and I do inform the city council whenever I leave town. So that should be easy enough. That being said, I think that it, again, is important for you to know if I am your main conduit to speak with staff, that you know if I'm in town or if I'm available. And luckily, wherever I go, I take my cell phone with me. When I go overseas, I take a satellite phone with me, so I am always accessible to you.
Okay, but what if you're not available? Because I know you've directed, you know, me to speak with Ron Noda. So I'm saying, and
if I've directed you to talk to someone and they are going to be out of town, I will let you know that. But I will let you know.
Okay, I'd appreciate that. Yeah. And then I just want to make one more thing. So Mr. Leitner is the one who created this policy, or?
Not created, he helped do the research in the back, on the back side. We did have a handbook already compiled. He just helped us research the surrounding cities to see where our policy was lacking, where we could add to it, to make sure that we were all consistent in doing best practices.
Okay, thank you.
Only thing I'll add about the out of town is, I don't know when it changed, but I think I let Chet and Wendy know. And then I've never seen a notification come back that says, Tanya is here and here's where you can find her, which I actually appreciate. So I feel like I do have it's more being helpful. So if there is an emergency, you know you won't get me. So at least y'all know that you can't get me.
Okay, with respect to, anyone on the council, any more questions on 9C, or,
No, I'll go ahead and move it.
okay, can I get a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Can the
Any opposed?
public make a comment on this, since it's a matter on the agenda?
Public comments are over, ma'am?
No, this is an agenda item, and the public's allowed to comment on any agenda item.
But the time for that is over, ma'am, so I'm moving on. We just
It
took
wasn't over.
We just took a vote on it,
I
yes.
stood right here.
No, the time allotted for public comment is over, ma'am. I'm not going to take any more public comments.
Okay, you run the show, but it also reflects your
Yes, it does.
intolerance of your constituents.
Thank you very much. So, any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion passed. So now we pulled 10G.
Yeah, and basically, I just wanted,
Well, hold on, just for clarity, is it 9G or 10G? What do you want me to call it?
We'll go off the number from the agenda, which is 9G.
Okay, 9G. Okay, this is the Orange County Grand Jury Report, e-bikes, friends or foe.
yeah, and I just pulled this for a brief, just staff report. I know this is such a hot topic in our city as well as everybody else, so I just wanted so the public could hear more of what's being done, not only at a local platform, but also at a county platform. That's it.
So with this particular grand jury report, the main thing we look on these is the grand jury will get their information, they'll come up with findings, and then they'll make recommendations. And if you look at the back, you'll see required responses. The same recommendations were made for every city in the county. And basically, they want them to refine the policies related to e-bike enforcement. They want them to have a mechanism to report accidents of e-bikes, and they want them to develop some type of outreach. So number 3 is already currently being done in our city, so we can check that box. We're already doing e-bike education and outreach at all of the junior high schools. The mechanism for reporting, I have currently reached out to the California Highway Patrol and spoken to their assistant chief. So when a traffic collision report is taken, like Captain Gallagher used to work traffic, he could tell you that documents all of the traffics that is reported back up to the state through a software called Switters. And e-bikes obviously were not around when this form was first developed. So it was something that was added after the fact, but they incorporated that into this document. The part that it is not specific as to is being able to have a criterion to be able to extrapolate just e-bike injuries that are occurred, as opposed to reporting it separate than a bicycle and differentiating between the two. So the California Highway Patrol is the one that creates the forms. They're the one that tracks the data in Switters. So I reached out directly to them to have them work on the back end of having this recommendation checked for everybody in the state if they're able to incorporate that into their document. So he's in the process of doing that research right now. And as far as number 1 goes, we have been gathering data from surrounding cities about various municipal codes that they use for enforcement with e-bikes that we currently do not. And so we are going to be coming to the council to offer recommendations to add to the Los Alamitos Municipal Code for e-bike enforcement policies that we currently do not have in existence. And we will be coming back to you before December 1st of 2024 so that we can propose those new provisions.
Great, thank you so much. That's what I needed, just so the public knows that we are on top of this as best we can, and this is something that's affecting statewide, not just
Yes,
LaSalle.
yes. Thank you.
Can I just add one comment very quickly, Mayor? I just want to commend the chief simply because being a small city, obviously, there's a lot of different rules and regulations that go into this, but it really does not mean anything if you do not partner with your neighboring jurisdictions in order to get a workable model in place. We have residents and people that are visiting our town that drive or ride through LaSalle, Seal Beach, Rossmore, Cypress in order to get to our schools. And so, again, your ability to work with the school district and being able to set up the program, the education program that's in place now is, I think, a great model that hopefully we'll see adopted throughout the county.
And if I could add one additional thing in that, there are certain things that will arise in law enforcement that are advantageous for us to be on the front end, right, in setting the trend, such as when the grand jury report came out about what we're doing about school shooters and active shooters in schools, and how we had incorporated the use of the Halligans, the plate carriers, all of these things that we had put inside the patrol cars to address that specific issue. We were on the forefront of doing that. Some things that actually benefits us to be on the back end of. E-bikes are moving and changing so fast that by us being one of the latter cities to update our municipal codes, we get to sit back and cherry pick all of the ones that have already been in place that don't work. In a brief example, the county did a great job in creating some with great detail in Rossmore, but there are very minute ones that we think are not very enforceable, such as listing a 5-mile-an-hour speed limit in certain occasions. Well, we're not going to be sitting there with a gun shooting a bicycle and estimating when they're at 5 miles an hour. The bikes do not have a speedometer on them for the kids to know when they're going 5 miles an hour. So that one doesn't transfer as being very enforceable. So that is something we can modify, and being on the tail end of this as it relates to new legislation, it is going to benefit us.
Yeah, agreed. I mean, we're just trying to get rid of the bad actors, not the ones going 7 miles an hour.
And the challenging part is that once we get this in place, these kids are going to come up with something different that we're not even thinking of yet with that e-bike, right? They're going to be towing each other. They're going to be holding onto cars. They're going to be pulling goat carts.
Yeah.
Like, they're going to be doing things we can't even think of yet with this e-bike.
Yeah.
So we're doing our best to try to come up with all-encompassing, a catch-all
Right.
for that unsafe act that you're going to be doing a year from now that we can't even think of yet.
Right, and I think that's what's important. I mean, these kids, as any teenager, think they're invincible and nothing can harm them, including a car a little bit bigger than them. So it's always nice to know that we've been proactive enough, so if there is something, a disaster that happens, and unfortunately, it's not a matter of if, but probably when.
It's all fun and games until you have a child
Right.
who has been hit on an
Right.
e-bike.
And as long as we can say we did our best, our due diligence, to try and stay ahead of this, but we can't catch everything. I think that's just important that we have these policies there, whether they choose to abide by them or not, that's another discussion.
And we will also take into consideration the fact that we have residents that are coming from Rossmore with one set of municipal codes, coming over Catella, and then having another set of municipal codes that are intact. So we will incorporate all of that into our e-bike safety course, and we have to educate the students on where which provisions apply and where they don't.
Right, I mean, ultimately, is we just don't want you to get dead, however that
At the end of the
looks.
day.
And if you're gonna look at, well, I can do it here and not there, you're kind of missing the intent of, just don't get dead. So, okay, thank you.
So, you
Yes,
know how
ma'am.
we have the volunteers in policing, and they're typically like our seniors, seasoned?
Correct.
Have you considered having like a young person on the e-bike task force? So maybe you could pick their brain about where they might be going with the next big thing in e-bikes?
So our next area that we're going to move into is going to be reserves to assist the workforce of the officers. But once we get that workforce established, like we have the volunteers, then the next tier might be to look into having either cadets or explorers. And then I think that is where they would be able to come in. And then even put, I'm getting way ahead of myself, but, coming up with a concept of maybe putting them in a uniform and having them out doing civilian patrols on the e-bikes and educating each other.
Because, the school board, they've got, what do you call it?
They've
got the one,
student representative.
yes, it's just one. And so maybe if it were like you could do like an interview and they had to compete for the position, but it's just one. maybe you rotate it ever so often, but then you've got like a real pulse, right? You got your ear to the ground, and you have someone kind of incentivized to tell you, like, but you know what I mean?
Right,
That-
right.
that's just my thought.
Thank you.
All right, with that, I'll move the item.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? The item passes. And we are taking the discussion item off, correct?
That's
So
correct, sir.
now we are at council announcements. I'm going to mix it up a little bit. Start with my left. Councilmember Doby, you can go first.
All right. So, first thing I did was coffee with a cop at the local grind, and I'm super stoked about that because they were my pick. They are on my list of favorite coffee places and snack shops, and they have the absolute best stickers. Like, I got this one there. They change them out every few weeks or so. I attended the ACCOC Summer Legislative Roundtable to hear about the different bills that may or may not make it to adoption. And the relevance and importance of this is we get a beautiful list and a breakdown of different bills that we can either submit a letter of support or a letter of opposition. I also attended Congresswoman Steele's Nonprofits of Distinction to honor the work of Casa Youth Shelter. Congratulations to them. And then I also attended a check presentation from the same Congresswoman. And this was special to me because it was actually a project that started in my first month as mayor last year. So I was like the first leg in this relay. It was the submittal. My idea collaborated with city manager because I didn't know, it was a mayor's roundtable. I don't know what to walk in there with. So I'm like, hey, man, what do I go and say? And he's like, take this. And it is verbatim what we were just presented with a check for. So I started it. He got to take the check, and the next mayor will be the one that actually gets to break the ground. But that was a precious one to me. I also attended a briefing at the John Wayne Airport on these little electric helicopters. I think the most important facet of this is it is not FAA approved. Like, that's all we need to be concerned about right now, is that it is not approved by the FAA. And I do not know how they're going to sell this because you cannot take your luggage with you. They're like, I'm gonna take you to Long Beach to LAX, but no luggage. So I've got some conspiracies about that, but I'll keep those to myself. I also attended a concert in the park at Orville Lewis, and I got to chat with some residents and our beverage garden volunteers, and then also our event sponsors. I think it's important that we let people know that their donations to our community are cherished, they're honored. So I see new faces in the beverage garden, so I had to make it a point to say, I appreciate you. I also attended a policy meeting and my board meeting for Orange County Mosquito and Vector Controls District. What I want everybody to know is when I get a report monthly on what the mosquitoes are doing in our city and in our region. And those items are posted to our city's website. That was one of the things that I requested when I kept seeing hoopla about the mosquitoes is coming, the mosquitoes is coming. So if you go to the city's website under your city, go to services, there's a tab, OC, Mosquito and Vector Control District, and you can get all the absolute latest information. Okay, additionally, I want to say something about the library. I'm on the Library Advisory Committee. I want to make it clear that that committee only meets 3 times a year, number one. So in my very first meeting there, I requested that my rep send me a report every month. And even if and nothing changed. Ain't nothing changed. That's fine. What's been happening is I give it to Wendy, and she puts it to our social media. So what I have requested, like right now, is that there be a page for updates just until it opens. Because I keep getting, it's trying to get materials, trying to get the workers, trying to get all the stuff done. It's a slow process without our control. So we can be looking forward to whenever they can fit it in. There will be a landing page for library updates specifically. Now, the interaction with that page will dictate how long it gets to stay, but I'm trying to commit with help those updates put to our website. And then I also attended our first Nights on Pine for the season. There were absolutely amazing food trucks, and they had an old school ice cream truck that sold chili cheese fries and the giant ice cream sandwiches, vanilla ice cream sandwiches. So a night was had a wonderful time. I invite everyone to come on out to our Nights on Pine. They're on Saturday nights. They go from 4 to 9. So whether you come for late lunch, early dinner, or dessert, come on down. That's it.
Thank you. Councilmember Hibbard?
Thank you. All right, I spent the last couple of months walking around Parkwood. Parkwood's that HOA neighborhood over on Lamson that nobody knows is actually in the city. While I was there, you do. I interestingly discovered that there were several discrepancies between what the city knows it owns and is responsible for and what the HOA owns or is responsible for. So staff's actually in the process of pulling some records to help bring clarity to that neighborhood. So we're looking forward to sorting that out and getting the city and the HOA on the same page. A couple of months ago, I was contacted by one of my neighbors in the Highlands, and she was concerned about the U-turns on the boulevard right in front of St. Hedwig, particularly in the mornings during school hours. I was walking the Highlands at that time, and she had mentioned that she had seen several close calls there. And so I coordinated with a traffic commissioner and ended up bringing this issue to the traffic commission. And they agreed with the resident that during the school year, during the morning, we could do a little bit better there. There was some room for improvement. So they replaced the U-turn sign there with some limited times that the U-turn can be made, which so far has been working out really great. She's really appreciative and shocked that something that she suggested actually was carried through to something as simple as signage, but she had a lot of buy-in with that. So she's been talking about that with all the neighbors, which I appreciate. That's what we're here for, right? That's why we're on council, is to ask our residents what we could do for them. And if it's a U-turn or if it's traffic safety, that's why we're here. I also attended the Coffee with a Cop, and I met a lady who lives behind Flags with the Flare. She didn't come in for the event, unfortunately, but we recruited her and got to talk with an officer who actually patrols her neighborhood, and he was familiar, knew exactly where she lived, knew her house, and so they got to talk, which was really cool because she accidentally came into the event, but ended up having took some pictures, had a really good time. I attended the ACCOC legislative reception at Wild Rivers, which Tanya talked about. I attended the OC Fair dinner at to launch the OC Fair, so lots of local electeds got to come together and hear what all the good stuff that's going to be happening at the fair this summer, excuse me. I attended the Chamber of Commerce breakfast at Madera's Steakhouse, where the owner, Art Garcia, which probably everyone knows, received a special recognition from the JFTB Base Commander Fox for his support of the base. And if anyone knows Art, he's very supportive of our military, so it was nice to see that he was recognized for that. I attended Congresswoman Steele's nonprofit recognition event at Hawaiian Gardens, where Casa Youth Shelter was recognized for their service to the community, and Chief was there. I believe you're on the board.
Correct.
You're on the board, yeah. That was kind of cool. Very cool. Later that day, I also attended the check presentation ceremony out on Bloomfield. I attended the ACCOC briefing at John Wayne Airport, which they started they're talking about the early phases of essentially their helicopter Ubers. 4 people up to a certain poundage. So if you're on the heavy side, it might be fewer people, but super cool concept. I'd definitely be an early adopter of that one. Up to 100 miles is the talking range right now. I attended the concert in the park in the Highlands. Thank you for having an event in the Highlands. Oftentimes, a lot of the residents, they don't want to cross the boulevard or they don't want to go to one of the bigger parks, but they really like being able to just walk down the street. So that was kind of all the buzz after the concert in the park. They just got to walk down to there. And the band was really cool. There was actually a lot of people from other cities as well. I was walking around just talking to people, several people that did not live in the city because of the band. So whoever's picking the bands or whoever's picking the entertainment, thank you for that. They're doing great. This past Saturday, just a couple days ago, I attended the Rotary's annual fishing derby at the Seal Beach Pier. I had seen this for years, never made it over there, but I got to enjoy the pancake breakfast and watching I think they had 305 kids that participated in the fishing derby. So thank you to the Rotary for everything that they're doing. With that, I'll end with this. Next month, I'll be walking around in the Highlands, which will be fun because that's my neighborhood. So if you see me out there, or if there's anything that I can help you with, everyone who's watching this online, flag me down, let me know. Or if it's easier to call me at 562-444-6751. I am here to serve.
Thank you. Councilmember Murphy?
Well, I am actually a Rotarian along with Chelsea, so I volunteered my time at the Seal Beach Pier for the Rotary Club Fishing Derby, and there was actually 308 kids that joined in on the day of fun. It's all about service over self, service above self. I also attended the OC government officials and Chambers of Commerce event at the OC Fair. I also attended the ACCOC State Legislative Roundtable and Summer Reception at Wild Rivers. And I attended the Coffee with a Cop event, and I got to talk in depth with our new officer, Officer Peacock. He's such a great person. Yeah, he's really fun. So that was really great just to get to know him a little better. And I also attended the check presentation event with Michelle Steele. So I won't even go through all of that. I attended a lot of events, and I will continue attending a lot of events because I enjoy engaging with everyone. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. And Mayor Pro Tem Hasselbrink?
Like the majority of us, I attended Congressman Steele's the nonprofit recognition for Casa Youth Shelter, among a lot of nonprofits that are in her congressional district. And then she followed us over to Laurel Park, where she presented us with a check for about $500,000 to add bike lanes and a mid-block crosswalk in front of LAE. This was actually, as Tanya said, was the brainchild when she was mayor. We have been conditioned by our city manager and our assistant city manager to ask for money, and we'll have it shovel ready so you can get the money. And so this was shovel ready. She had the money, and here we are. I talked to a couple of the school board members, and they were absolutely thrilled because obviously this benefits their constituents as much. So that was great to see how that all worked. Congresswoman Steele always, she says, we just have a very special place in her heart, and she's always looking out for us and finding money. I think the next big check will be the $1 million for our fire station that passed appropriations. It now has to go through Congress to be signed, and then the Senate to be signed, and the President to be signed, but there's absolutely no kickback on why it would not be. So $1 million for our little fire station buys a lot of shower curtains. So we're quite happy with that. So that should be happening most likely after the election. I don't think they're really counting on big check presentations between now and November. I did attend the Thursday night concerts, the first one being over at Cottonwood. They had a Beatles band, which they were really good. I'm not a big Beatles fan, but I kind of got into it because there were so many people that were really into it. Cottonwood was more crowded than I have ever seen it, and people just having a great time. The foundation was out there with the beverage garden. OCFA was out there with their education area. Staff was there working with kids. They were doing arts and crafts, and it was just, it was a really perfect night. Then I went over the following week over to Orville Lewis Park. That was a Journey cover band. They are near and dear to my heart from high school. There were a lot of people there that I found out were my age because they were singing the songs right along with the band. And then I did attend the Saturday Nights on Pine with the food trucks and a live band. Lots of food trucks. At all the events, I was able to pass out the My City, My LaSalle stickers and talk to residents. There was a constant overwhelming theme that they're very happy with what the city has done, including the major upgrades while keeping the small town feel. They were very aware of back in 2020 when we did the sales tax measure that the existing city council at the time took an oath to an accountability oath, and we laid out exactly how the money was going to be spent. And they were very happy that that's exactly how the money is being spent. Enhancement with police department, with Elvis and the motor officer returning, upgrading all of our parks, which I know is currently going on, redoing all of our streets, and keeping the homeless issue to a minimum, and having 2 homeless liaison officers within a city of our size. It's overkill, but it's the reason we don't have a homeless issue. So the residents were very happy, and we were able to do all this while finishing with a budget surplus, which if you've read the local Orange County news is not the norm right now. So a lot of good energy. Residents were just, this is why we live here. So that was great. And then I attended the celebration of life for Leon Jostrom. He passed away a couple of weeks ago at the age of 94. Him and his wife Nancy were married for 72 years. He is part of the old guard from way back when. So I was hanging out with the Labradette family, the Farquhar family, and of course the never-ending, never-always growing Poe family. And the stories about what the town used to look like, and hearing that we had a winery back here. It was just a really cool thing, and they are proud to be part of the founding families of Los Alamitos, and they have amazing stories, and I would love to be able to, the still survivors, to be able to pick their brains a little bit and get some of the different places that they worked at here and some of the stories. It was just awesome, and some of the mischief that Bill Poe got involved in. And with that, that's it. That's all I've got. Thank you.
All right. I'll keep it brief. I went to both of my OC sanitation board meetings, and I feel a little jealous because we don't have a tab on our website talking about wastewater. I think we really need one.
Yes.
But I'm just kidding. I would want to look at a tab that's dealing with wastewater. But I went to a lot of the similar events, so I won't really get into it. But I just want to end on a positive note. I did go to both of the concert at Little Cottonwood and at Orville Lewis. And aside from the great bands, like you mentioned, it is great to get out in the community. It is great to talk to residents. Although there are complaints that there are no margaritas, or there haven't been for the last 2 times, so we need to fix that. But this is a great city. I just want to end on a positive note. I look forward to attending things where we can get together as a community. I always try to bring my kids and if you guys seen me out there with my dog, and sometimes I'm in flip-flops, so hopefully no one reports me. And let's just have a great month. We're going to adjourn now here until Monday, September 23rd, 2024 at 6 p.m.